So designing a game requires a certain level of creativity. Creativity! And if you're not creative, well, I can't teach you to be creative. There are obviously tools that you can use. For instance, story cubes that might help you to come up with a theme or a genre or a concept. Um, but yeah, it's really up to you. And concepting is about prototyping, is about iterating, is about just trying stuff, seeing if it's funny, seeing if it sticks, if it's addictive, and most importantly, of course, you can use the game storm structure with an objective, obstacles, actions that have positive and negative influence, and eventually a score, which is qualitative and quantitative. So that's a good structure to use for the basic concept of your game. And from that, you can elaborate into a game loop. So it's a set of actions that players need to undertake continuously to progress throughout the game and to continuously level up, like Mario does each time. So that's an important part. Then, obviously, the game flow is something that you'll probably heard of, the theory of flow. And what you try to do as a game designer is to get people into a certain flow where they balance between frustration and boredom. This is also something that goes for life. I mean, if you have too much work in your daily job, then you'll probably get burned out. But if it's not interesting enough and you don't get enough work, then you'll get bored out. So either way, it's not good. So you want to manage that flow between boredom and frustration by setting goals, by setting challenges, and forcing the player actually to continuously level up. So as soon as they get into a certain routine, as soon as they think they get it, that's the point where you need to introduce something new, so players interact with that. So keep that in mind when you design a game or when you reach a certain level of designing the game, because in the beginning it's important to just come up with a structure like the game storm structure and a game loop where you have to undertake. For instance, think of something, execute it, redeem the score that you get as a reward for executing the thing you needed to do, and then use the currency to improve whatever. Whether it's Farmville, for instance, you have a piece of farm, then you have to put seeds into the ground, then you have to wait. And as you wait, a flower grows or a plant grows, and you can sell the crops for money, 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 money. Yeah. So, that being said, let's go through the mechanics that we developed for you. So this is not a finite list. So I have 30 game mechanics on my YouTube channel that I explain. Check out those, and also check out the following. So actions a person can undertake in the game could be anything from finding and hiding stuff. It could be collecting or discarding stuff. So you have to collect all the cups, and if you have all the cups, then you're great. You have to maybe combine stuff or separate stuff. So you have to put things together into something new. Or you have to unravel a puzzle, for instance. You could think about a social mechanic about giving stuff or taking stuff, stealing, for instance, or giving things to other players. You can share or keep stuff. You could collaborate or compete. So it's a positive or a negative way of influencing players. You could say you customize things or standardize things. So customizing obviously is to create your own avatar in a certain style that makes people invest into the game, which is very valuable because then they tend to stick longer in your game. So now let's talk a little bit about objects. So there's different types of objects. For instance, people are very valuable in game design. As I showed you before, people. Items could be very important, like a gun or a camera or a musical instrument or anything like that. Transportation, planes, trains, and automobiles could be a way to move from one place to another, or portals, like in Pac-Man. Maybe you knew that originally the Pac-Man design was a closed maze, totally closed, but people got claustrophobic. So then they decided to create two loopholes, actually, where you could exit and enter. Different locations. Most of the games where you level up, you'll encounter a different location. And there you have a new field, like in Pac-Man, or a new platform, like in Mario's, or any other game. So levels could be worlds or locations. Now, let's talk a little bit about time. Time can be a very important factor in any game concept. And there's 5 dimensions of time. 5. So it could be timing, doing something at the right moment. So if you're too early, nothing happens. If you're too late, maybe you fail or nothing happens, but you have to be on the right spot on moment. Time could also be duration. So I have, for instance, 10 minutes to do this talk. Or you can play for only 5 minutes, as you can in Candy Crush. You have 5 minutes to crush as much as candy as you can. Candy. Time could also be pace in terms of a certain rhythm. So, for instance, for Tap Tap Dance Revolution, which I play every Sunday, time could also be speed if you combine it with the amount of meters you need to cover. So it could be speed or how fast you do something. So, for instance, in Cook Dash, I think you have to cook as many dishes as you can or be faster doing that. And time could also be a limit. Like in Burnout, the racing game, arcade game in the past, you had certain checkpoints and you need to check into each checkpoint within a certain amount of time. Yeah. Now, these are all types of mechanics. It's not an infinite list. It's just an example of how many mechanics could be out there, how many rewards you can think of, how many actions could be relevant for your game concepts. Most important is that you just start developing something that you think is relevant, which ties into the set objective and the drives and motivations of your audience. Now, motivation that people could have is, for instance, to gain or share things, whether it be knowledge, whether it be stuff, whether it be, well, whatever. You could also say that player motivations are things like building, controlling, or destroying stuff. Yeah. Or giving or taking stuff or knowledge or other properties. You could say people could play alone or play together. To be honest, I'm kind of a geek. I like playing alone, even versus bots and not versus people. Well, those are basically the 4 quadrants that I discussed previously. And then you can think about the goals in your game. So what types of goals would be relevant for the player? And this again should tie into the main goal of the company, the behavior that you want to achieve, and then translate those two into a relevant goal in the game environment. Because if it's not relevant for the players, they will very quickly stop playing. So keep that in mind. A goal could, for instance, be to eliminate other players. Yeah, it's like in Mens Erg, you need, I don't know the name in English right now, but you have to eliminate all the other players. Also in Risk, also in Monopoly in the end. One of the goals could be to capture something. Yeah, capture the flag is a very common game. Or in Catan, you have to capture certain areas, and if you capture them, as in Risk, you win the game. It could be escape. You need to escape. Escape is a very good example, I think, is Portal, where you need to escape all the levels, and in Pac-Man as well, you need to escape, obviously, eating all the dots. So, collect. Pokemon Go, anyone? Gotta catch them all. Collecting, a very important drive. I mean, according to a lot of scientists, we as people, really, we crave collecting stuff. Your game concept could be a race. The end goal could be a race. I think you understand what I mean with that. Or you could say you need to gather 60 points, and if you have 60 points, then you have won. So it's 10 20, and 30, and there you go, you won the game. You could say checkpoints, as I mentioned before in Burnout, or goals and objectives. You could say there's a certain specific goal. You need to slay the dragon, save the princess, get out of the car, get out of the building, or whatever specific goal you might define. So these are all mechanics that tie into drives and motivations of people. I hope you grasp it. I hope you will play along with it. And if you find it hard to come up with a creative concept yourself, do some benchmarking, do some spying, analyze Pac-Man, analyze Donkey Kong, analyze Fallout. Well, maybe that's a bit level 25, but analyze Monopoly, stuff like that. It will really help you to grasp the power of play, and especially which routines there are in a certain game that you need players to perform. So if I do this, it will result in that. That will give me this, and then I can use that to do whatever. Yeah. Good luck prototyping your first game, and if you have any questions, send me a tweet or reach out in another.